And we're live. What's up, folks? Oh, you're muted. Yes, you're muted. Okay, as he's figuring this out, I'll go ahead and make the opening announcement. Folks, welcome to Tell Us About Yourself. I'm your host, ChibiBT. Joining me, as always, is Dustin Garman, and today our special guest is Anarchy's son. Anarchy's son, how are you doing this great day?
Well, we've already had a couple beers in us, and we're hanging out, so we're doing pretty good right now.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Now, for the people that might not know, you do have a competitor in the game. You have a tornado in the game. You have a trios in the game. How did Anarchy's Son get made? What was the concept behind it?
Well, I used to ride a bike all the time, and my wife, once we got to playing the game a lot, my wife, during one of the Kickstarters, one of the early ones, wanted to make a character, and she sent a picture of me back in my heavy riding days, and it sort of looked like a biker, sort of was a biker, and we made it, and Steve and I got to talking about it, and he said, "What do you want to be called?" And Sons of Anarchy was real big at the time, and so we kind of flipped it around, and Anarchy Son was born.
Awesome. So just from you enjoying riding back in the day, that becomes the character concept, and
that became the character concept.
And then, so you have the trios. What was that made by you, or was that made by Polka? That's the Shovel Club, I believe.
It was kind of a duo thing where we wanted to pay homage to us starting up the Louisville area Super Show group back when we first started it, and me and Polka and Matt, God rest his soul, was big into that, and as we played, we kind of all hung out together, and so we were kind of like the club, and had a lot of fun.
And of course, you also have Matt Stevens on your Tornado, the Alpaca Protection Agency, APA.
Yeah, we were good. We were friends during before he passed. He was a great guy, and world lost a great dude with him.
I've heard nothing but amazing stories of this man. I did not get the honor of getting to meet him in person. What do you think of the new character that they made for him? He was just redone in the old school packs with a new gimmick?
I thought it was awesome. The redo of the gimmick was great. I mean, Matt's character has always been one of my favorites. I ran it a bunch, still got it made. It's an honor to still play the game and think back to him. The character was wonderful. The art's amazing. It's a great tribute to a great guy.
Yes. Dustin, how are we doing now? Nope, still muted.
You know, it's the best I've ever heard Dustin sound.
I know, he's sounding like an angel right now. Okay, so in the chat, we got Italian Bombada asking, were you drinking PBRs?
Absolutely. What else would I drink? Only the best.
Kyle saying a IPA guy. Let's see. Okay, and then they just start talking about other shenanigans. Oh, we lost him. Okay.
I don't know about y'all, but the quality of the stream just went up. And I can talk about him because Dustin brought me into the game, so he was the first one to teach me how to play.
There we go. All right. Well, as we wait for him to rejoin, we've talked about your character concept. How was it when you started getting into the community? You said that you were starting it with Matt Stevens, with Polka. How did that come about?
Well, the funny part was I met Dustin out at Gen Con. That's where I learned the game, and I instantly liked it. And my wife is not a big card gamer. She normally doesn't like it, but I bought a set of them, just a starter deck to, to teach her how to play what I learned, and really liked it. Went back and all the kids played, and we ended up buying a whole bunch of stuff at that first Gen Con, and got back home and didn't think much about it anymore until I ordered some stuff from Steve, and suddenly we found out somebody else here in town was playing, because my stuff got shipped, as I believe, to a different address, or our tracking numbers got crossed or something. And both of them were coming to Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I ended up meeting Polka and Matt at about the same time. I happened to be at a store playing. Me and my wife started just going and playing, and they came up to us and we talked and just started having games on Fridays and Saturday nights, either at each other's house or out at the store, depending on who was available, and started playing almost every week, and really enjoyed doing demos. So I would be there doing demos to people that came around, and met a lot of great people in the beginning and on down the road. One I can think about right off the cuff is Todd Brooks, Alexander Slamilton, great dude, and met him and his son Jeremy at this little convention here in Louisville, and was doing demos and met them, played a couple of games.
Hamilton's calling you his best friend.
Well, I only hit him a couple times in the head this week, so he probably thinks so.
Okay.
But no, he
not too many. Okay, we're
no,
hearing something, Dustin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. There we go.
Okay. Sorry about that, folks. I'm not sure what was going on.
Okay. Well,
but met a lot of great people playing it here, and the community just was growing and growing. And I think the best part about the community that I've seen was when Matt did pass away. The whole community, all the way from the Rust Belt, they all come down. They all participated in the Plaid Saturday, and they collected a lot of money. And Steve and them giving so much to the family, doing as much as they did to help them. Because Matt left 3 beautiful little girls behind, and they were very young, and the whole community came together and really stood behind them. And that's a game you really want to be a part of.
Oh, definitely. Okay. So, Dustin, now that we can actually hear you, do you want to do your normal spiel that you did not get to do because I cut you off because we couldn't hear you?
You're fine. I'm sorry about that, folks. There wasn't really much announcements. Just this Saturday is the CAC.
Gaming.
Yeah, Miso's up at Louisville, the CAC and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm sorry, folks. I'm not sure what was going on, but talking with you, Mike. Matt, one thing about Matt that I love the most was every time, like you were talking about his daughters and stuff like that, every time, whether he was playing or his kids were playing, they were so close together. It was awesome. He would be over her shoulder watching her play, and that's one thing I do miss about Matt. And I do miss y'all's APA promos. I miss those so much. But yeah, it was a good tribute that Saturday for Matt.
It really was. It was a really cool thing that they did.
Okay, and let's see. Bombada would like you to know that schoolboys should be illegal.
Now, all Bombada's mad about is I snuck one in on him, and I believe it was a 5.65 off a 7 roll. So, you kind of got to take that with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm waiting to hear what he has to say about that.
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
We were talking about, I know, which I was muted, of course. We were talking about your Anarchy son and stuff like that, and Belinda's in the game, and also your daughter, Unique. Now the cool thing about Unique is I like that, they're all three totally different different what's the best way to put it, ways of playing, but it all comes back to a shovel for Unique. And her finished strike is an Anarchy shovel. How did that come about?
Well, everybody knows that when you have a daughter, and the first thing that they do is take everything that's yours, it becomes theirs. And when we started looking at the when Hope Unique started playing, she loved the game and she loved the promo part of it the best, and she really wanted to be a part of it and part of the community. And she actually wanted to spend her babysitting money that she was getting at the time making her character. Obviously, she didn't. We paid for it to get it in the game for her, but she was. We were talking about the different moves and the different things that her character could do and what she wanted. And one of the things that we both talked about was how she was always big about taking my stuff. Anything she wanted of mine, she'd take it and it'd disappear for a while, end up in her room. And she's always been a fighter. In fact, one of the earliest stories was we had a 50-pound dog, and she was toddling, and he stole her little people's sheep and took it to his pen. And we didn't understand what she was saying. She kept saying Yaya. His name was Bonsai bat. We thought she was just mad at him. So I told her to regulate it and take care of it. So she went and got her a baseball bat and was coming back to educate the dog that he ain't supposed to take her toys. And so when we were making this character for her, the first thing that came to mind was that story about the dog and the fact that she would regulate people and who she would take the shovel from her daddy and just go beat somebody to death in the ring. And that's sort of how Anarchy Shovel came to be. And as a tribute, I was talking to Steve, and he was kind enough, since it was my daughter, we could both share that finish. So Anarchy Shovel belongs to both Anarchy and Unique.
And what's with the shovels anyway? Because the shovels are prevalent in everything. Smack with a shovel, being a extra finisher in pretty much every single competitor that you're on.
Well, I've never been a stop player. I prefer to run a very aggro deck, which, it's you don't win as much with all aggro, low stops. He does much better now in the 6 stop challenges, but I've always been an aggro player, and I may throw 10 things at you and hopefully one of them's going to stick. When we first started looking at it, though, I always liked the bad guy character, the fact that Triple H would bring down the sledgehammer, the Undertaker. I loved all the hardcore matches, the Kings of Death matches. And so when I was looking at making Anarchy, I said, what's a biker going to do? He ain't going to play fair. He's going to come down and beat somebody with something. And Shovel just seemed the most liked thing that was out there at the time, already in the game. And I love the idea of not being disqualified and having the referee on the tape.
Oh, definitely.
And if you look later, one of the characters that came out is also in the Wolf Pack is Sin, S-Y-N. And Sin happens to be my oldest son. So he's the dirty ref that lets Anarchy get away with cheating.
Ah, okay. Did not know that. So the entire family is in the game then?
My littlest one is Mayhem. If you ever see him and look at the little ghosted kid in behind him, that's my youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And my oldest is Sin, and then my daughter, of course. And everybody loves Nemesis. And Nemesis is in the game.
Yes. That entrance, very powerful.
You've got
he's now part of a tag team.
Oh yes, that's right.
You've got a little backstory with Nemesis, and I heard you a little bit at Origins, and I was wondering if you'd care to share that.
Sure. My wife, we were getting ready to make her character, Belinda. Belinda is actually an old Vampire the Masquerade character of hers. And for Christmas one year, I was going to make her character. So we got in the Kickstarter and made her character. And we were trying to come up with different things. And I kind of talked to Steve on the side, and I said, could you do me a favor and sneak a picture of a raccoon in every one of her finishes and in her character card? because my wife has a ongoing war with a raccoon that lives behind our house. It comes out, it gets in her garbage, it tears everything to pieces. We even caught it feeding the squirrels Skittles one time. We're swearing it's buying them off. But this raccoon lives there and it tears up stuff. And she calls it her nemesis. And she used to sit inside and we'd hear the thump of the trash can. She'd get up and run outside to try to, I don't know, catch it, throw it over the hill, something. She wanted to get revenge on Nemesis. She would put rocks on top of it. It would knock them off and still get in there. So it was this hate relationship. So as a joke, an inside joke, I put this raccoon on all of her finishes, had him put on all of her finishes, and Steve did a Where's Waldo thing. It was really awesome, and it turned out just perfect. And a lot of people didn't even notice him. And the people that did would ask the question, but she called it her nemesis. So it, later on when I made the entrance and had the entrance made, I wanted to make sure everybody knew that it did have a name and it was her nemesis. So forever now, Belinda Nemesis is alive and well in the card game.
Yes, in the tornado. I haven't looked at it in a while. Those tornado bonuses are ridiculous. She's a pretty good competitor, even though she got 2020'd into that.
She did, but Becky still loves playing her, so
that's good.
Great character.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Do we have any? Have we got any more Twitch questions?
That's what I was looking. Right now, it's just more comments about that damn raccoon.
Everybody loves the raccoon. It even showed up on the trash man's. He had to go help trash man out.
Was there ever resolution to Nemesis, to her nemesis, or did it just
Nemesis
disappear?
is still alive and well. He is still terrorizing her. A couple of weeks ago, we come in and he was stuck in the trash can. It had been emptied and he had been in there for about 24 hours and he was very anxious to get let out. He made a terrible error in judgment. And he just tore up stuff the last 2 nights. So she's still got her nemesis and he's still hanging out in the neighborhood.
Oh my gosh.
We're gonna have to have her trap it and then them do an entrance together at Origins.
Oh,
or not
bring
Origins,
the raccoon.
Grand Gathering.
Yeah, no. So yeah, that's a question that usually gets asked a little later. But are you looking forward to any Super Show events this year?
Oh, I'll be at all the conventions. We're all going to Origins this year. I will be working security again, so I don't know how much I'll get to play in a lot of the tournaments, but I'll definitely be around. I love demoing the game, so I'm sure I'll show up somewhere and do some demos.
Awesome.
I'll be at Gen Con again. I think I'm going to run down to if anybody's going to be at the Dragon Con. I think I'm going to try to get down there this year. And I was just at the Grand Gathering, so you never know where we're going to show up.
Just everywhere.
Everywhere.
Do you have a favorite moment from this past Grand Gathering?
Oh, I loved, there were so many good ones. Dustin's promo where it freaked everyone out. That was probably my number one pick because I got to help him out. And now, in my defense, he told me to not be easy with him. And I think I almost threw him on the ground because he wasn't ready for it. I think it kind of made him nervous.
It did silence the entire room.
It was interesting. He told me not to tell anybody before it happened, so it proves I can keep my mouth shut.
Yep.
That
was great.
That's one moment like I told you, I said just yank me as hard as you can out of that chair, but I did not expect how quick. Like I was like, I thought you were gonna throw me out the door. I mean, it was like so intense.
Hey, you got what you asked for. I think that and hanging out with Brimstone. Brimstone was a great dude, and I really enjoyed hanging out talking to him.
he seemed great. Slamilton, thank you for the 5 subs and the concussion. Ow. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, Brimstone was definitely fun to talk to. Listening to what he does, his charity, finding out that he's on the radio. It was fun. I liked all the wrestlers that they were able to get to show up to the Grand Gathering. They were definitely a treat on it.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
And
Foreman,
another thing,
I will ask that question when we get to the top of the hour because those are part of the one or the other question. Thank you for it. I
that's
will ask it.
that's another thing. Also, earlier, we were talking about APA with you and Matt. It seems like every promo that we do and you're around, we need security still.
Well, I tend to, as long as we're not on a union break, Calais still doesn't like those union breaks.
So I don't know. I don't remember if you've ever held a title. Have you ever held any of the Super Show titles?
No, I've never gotten one of the big titles. I've held the store titles here in Louisville. Um, I'm not a big title seeker. I would prefer not to hold titles, believe it or not. I
Mhm.
would rather be the guy that does all the demos and work with the new players.
You like to be
Dustin really,
the first friendly face they see.
I would prefer to do that, and I spend more time teaching when I end up playing because it always ends up I get a new player, and I really hate just beating on them too bad. So I end up coaching them through the matches. So,
Mhm.
but I'd rather do that anyway. I think that's more akin to the way I like to play the game.
Be presenting people the game in the best possible light, helping them get their foot in the door, and then letting them just go.
Yeah, I remind them of their gimmicks, and
Mhm.
because a lot of times the new players, especially when they get nervous in one of the big tournaments, they start forgetting their gimmicks and they forget their entrance, and you can take advantage of that, or you can coach them, and hopefully they'll remember that and be happy about it and grow with that.
Yeah. Yep.
And y'all seem, just judging, I was there about a week ago. Just judging from that, y'all seem to have quite a bit of the locals there, and it's awesome seeing the numbers. I think, not including myself, but I think y'all had about 14 that day or something like that. Y'all have quite a bit of locals.
Yeah, the locals are doing great. They, a lot of great players, a lot of really classy people there helping new players. I mean, got a lot of up and comers. I think they're going to be big in the Super Show community.
Is there anyone we should be looking out for?
Oh, I think Crabtree, Velma. I think his character just came out. The Yaz, love it. Great dude, great person. Uh, Enjoy seeing him every time I get over there. Colton Moxie's going to be he does a lot more trading now, but if he ever can figure out how to play the game, hopefully he's on here listening to me smack talk. Nah, he's a great guy, good player. Those two are and Austin's a good guy. Austin's really good, and he's an up and comer. He's being coached by the one and only Harvey Lusters. So those two are going to go way high in the tag teams. I think.
Harvey is a great player, but he's so set in his ways on how he plays.
Yep. But Austin's coming under his own. He's a really good guy too.
Slamilton is the best in the group. I wouldn't call Slamilton an up and comer though. Would you?
I call him the All American Zero. So I tell him that all the time. He's one of these days. I think he might become a shovel handler in training. just so that
there's a training to hold the shovel.
well, yeah, you know, we have shovel handlers in training,
Okay.
and Slamilton is 100%. I would emphasize the word 100%. A shovel handler in training.
Awesome. Double handlers in training. Love it. Okay, so we're just at the top of the hour. And at this point, we have a bunch of questions that we just like to ask all of our the people that show up. And they're just one or the other options. And the first one we're going to start with is pineapple or sheep.
Oh, I got to go with my sheep, brother.
Of course.
I've hung out with the sheep for so long, and Polka is always going to be one of the shovel club.
Oh, most definitely. He always has that look on him. Even when he was in the higher class, now he's with who's he with now? He's with is he still in that group?
I don't know who he's now hanging with. He's always been the New Wool Order.
Yeah.
And, you know, every now and then you'll see a wolf show up in sheep's clothing.
Yeah. But is he still in DWO? I know, like, there was a mass exodus from it.
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Next is dog or cat?
Oh, well, I'm in the wolf pack, so I got to go dog.
The Italian.
We should have added a raccoon to that question.
Oh, it's definitely.
Oh, raccoon, 100%.
Raccoon definitely wins that one then. Shaggy Shark or the Italian Bombata?
Oh, I like Shaggy. I remember when Shaggy came out at the first Grand Gathering. That was the best entrance I've ever seen.
We have the question, union or corporate?
Yeah. I do have to go with corporate on that one.
Oh, sorry, the union.
Ooh.
Gets thrown on their bus there. The Cheesehead asks cheese or pickle.
Cheese or pickle? Well, TJ, I got to go with pickle on that one, buddy. Hearing his debate was always funny.
The Candy Ma'am or the Candy Man?
Candy Man. I got to hang out with a little bit with Dan, and he seems like a good dude.
Oh, he definitely is.
I haven't got to hang out with Candy Man much.
And then the last one, the Nightmare King or the Dark Prince?
Dark Prince.
Dark Prince, you like the evil persona?
I like the evil persona better.
Let's see. Going back to this, Polka is one of the best in the game. Please do not forget that for a minute. How much did Calais pay you to say corporate?
Well, we'll just say that there's at least 2 or 3 cases of PBR showing up at the house here in a little bit.
Okay, makes sense. Beer talks. Beer is a currency for everyone. Okay. So we've talked about your start with the game a bit, how the community started, all the characters that you have in the game, your entire family in the game. What do you think is the future for Anarchy Sun?
Well, as far as myself, I'm still a big promoter of the game. I really like going, and I normally take it with me whenever I do a business trip or a personal trip, and I try to hit all the comic book stores and sit around and play and try to bring it to new people. So my in-ring or my reaching out to the community is big for me. All my kids, we play constantly around the house whenever we get a chance, whenever we're all sitting down. Between all the volunteer stuff we all do and my daughter's new business that she's been trying to get off the ground. I think that we'll just continue to play the game, have fun, interact with the community, and try to be the biggest supporter of the Super Show community I can be.
Awesome. Okay. And we do have a question from someone in the Zoom room. If the Dark Prince would just go ahead and unmute.
What's going on there, Mr. Anarchy son? I heard that you're a big fan of the Dark Prince, and I appreciate that. I really do. I just have two simple questions to ask you, sir. One of them is, who would be your favorite dream opponent in LFF?
My favorite opponent in the LFF. I love playing Kurt Polk. I always learn something when I play him. I love playing Bobby Ohio. We've had so many good matches, but I think my favorite ever was a match against the frequent flyer, Keith Overby. And it was one of those back when tornado tag teams where you put two people together and you just did it. And I played this awful character combination. We ended up both of us had to try to figure out what the turn roll was. So it was sort of a nightmare for both of us. We had this long game, and all my finishers were at the very bottom of the deck, so I couldn't even get rid of all the turn roll boosts. So that was probably my favorite match ever.
Fair enough, fair enough. Another question to ask you. If you went to any company and you were going after the tag team titles, who would you bring and which company will you go after?
If I was going after a tag team title, well, I only ever play myself, so I would probably bring for the tag teams, if I was doing a tornado, I'd bring APA. Again, I love the over the top, and I don't know which company. I really like my locals here, so if I was going to play something, I'd probably go for my locals.
Fair enough. I guess you guys got your tag team titles at your locals, I guess.
I don't know if we've got the tag one started back up again. I had it for a long time, but
I believe Dark Prince was meaning wrestling companies. If you were to actually be a wrestler, who would you want to wrestle with, and what company would you go for the title for?
And as we found out on the episode, the wrestler can actually still be alive, or they have already passed. But
I still like the idea of having Matt come back for one more moment.
I would love that. Now, if I was going to actually have a match against a real wrestler, I got to say Legion of Doom. They were always my favorites, and from the time I was a little kid. So I would probably go with Legion of Doom or the Road Warriors, and I'd want to do it at WWE, but back when it was the WWF.
Oh, old school.
Old school.
Okay, that's fair enough. All right, well, carry on, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, buddy.
Dark Prince, for those
no
questions.
Problem.
And the Italian Bombata, since you brought it up, he's curious how Hope's business is doing. What business does she have anyway? If you would like to plug it.
Oh, sure. Well, Hope started Hope-Filled Creations. What it is, she has a lot of anxiety, and she got really good at making jewelry. And her and her mom, she started selling it, and she came up with her own version of lip gloss that she started making, and pins, and just all kinds of little craft things. You can find her on Facebook under Hope-Filled Creations. She started selling things and using the money. She used her babysitting money to kind of fund it. And now she does craft shows and runs free craft shows where she volunteers at churches and through the Freemason organizations to run craft shows for them where people come in and sell, and she doesn't take a profit off of it, to try to help out different organizations, kids, and so forth. And about most of her profits, she ends up turning around and she does a thing with like drug addicts, the kids of drug addicts and people that are in recovery. And she helps run programs for those through our local church. And she takes a lot of the money she makes in her craft to help fund that as well. And go ahead.
Yeah, so completely just whatever she can to make sure that she doesn't go broke doing this, she takes care of, and then everything else goes into charity donation. That's
Just
amazing.
about everything else, and enough to just keep running and pay the taxes that she owes. And she's made a little bit along. I mean, she doesn't make nothing, but she spends a lot of money back on the kids. And it's a really good. She does a lot of outreach for stuff like that. She has a real heart for that. She's very excited though. She just got, I think it's 2 different companies, small stores out of state, that have agreed to carry her product. So she's now doing some wholesaling. And she just found a local, of all things, she just found a local artist, musician that she's looking for gigs for. And so he's given her a little money to find him gigs. And so she's diversifying her portfolio. So at 17, she has a head for business and a heart for people.
What she might not be rich in money, but she is definitely rich in love for the community. That is amazing.
And that's nothing we taught her. That's all her.
All her. That's awesome.
And you're quite, talking to you, Mike, which we do charity events down here as well, but you're a really giving guy as well. You've got I know you often do a lot of stuff in your is it your Mason Lodge, or what's to put the charities up there as well?
I am a very vocally a Freemason. I work with the shrine. We do a lot of events that benefits children. We do a lot through the Scottish Rite that benefits different charities. My personal favorite is the CMMRF, which does a lot of research with diabetes and heart disease, and every one of the bodies has a philanthropy that we drive for and work with, and every one of them is good, and we volunteer with a lot of that. In fact, I'm here at the Shrine Club tonight. We're doing bingo where we're raising money for the kids, as well as raising money for the club to try to keep the club floating. But ultimately, all that we can give, we're giving back to the kids, and the kids in the area that we're benefiting is the burn unit. So you haven't lived until you've seen a little kid that's been a victim of a horrible burns, and they really need the help. And that's what our hospital, the Shriners Hospital here, supports. So my plug for them is, if you have the opportunity to help a Shriner, you're also helping a kid. So they're there to help and be part of that organization or give to that organization. It's really good.
So much outreach. Like you say your daughter didn't learn it from you. I think she learned it from watching guys, because it
we
seems
like
like
to
the
think
entire
so, but
family gives as much as it can. That's awesome.
well, we like to help other people. That's what we're put on this earth for.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked about past, present, future. One of the things I do like to know is how you got interested in wrestling, if you were ever interested in wrestling to begin with.
Well, when I was little, my granddad passed away when I was 9 years old, so I didn't know him very long. But growing up with him, since back to when I can barely remember, I would go in and sit on his lap, and we would watch wrestling together. And the reason I remember that is he had a bad heart, and his valve was worn out. And every time whenever I'd sit with him, you could hear his heart ticking. It was a really weird thing, and it always stuck with me. And he passed away like I said, when I was 9 years old, and of heart failure. And it finally did give out. And so I got to watch my grandmother continue on by herself, but with her daughters. And I spent a lot of time at their house, and they always had wrestling on. They always enjoyed that. And so I remember watching all the old matches back through the 80s, all the way up through the 90s. And it was really, really interesting. But yeah, I started watching wrestling probably in the late 70s, beginning of the 80s. So, and it's just always been a lifelong passion.
You remember who your
Who
favorite
was
wrestler was from back then?
Oh, I always loved Hulk Hogan. Everybody loved Hulk Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like Georgie Animal Steel and King Kong Bundy. I still like to go back and watch some of those matches. Just all kinds of stuff like that.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Oh, I was gonna ask the same question you was.
Okay, great minds think alike on that. So, grew up with wrestling pretty much your entire life. Got to enjoy it as you grew older. Helps remind keep that memory of your grandfather in your heart. How? What about on the gaming side? When did you first get into playing any games? Was it? I don't know why it's not working, Bambata. I am sorry. Stop trying to hit me with things. But what was the first time you got into like a community such as this?
Oh, well, I will say that I started out loving games when I was fairly young. My aunt didn't drive, and she was a school teacher, so they tended to take her back and forwards to drop her off once a week. She would live in Point Pleasant and then work at the school down there, and then my mom and dad would go pick them up and bring her home. Well, during that time, I spent a lot of time at my grandma's house with my mother aunt, who had some agoraphobic issues back in the day. And we would sit around and play board games. So I got to be a real big fan of board games all the way up through when I graduated high school. I lived in a real small community back in the hills of West Virginia, so there wasn't a lot of kids around. I had a little D&D group that met, but we could only meet very seldom because we all lived about a 50-minute drive apart. So it really wasn't until I got into college where we played a lot of LARP, Vampire the Masquerade. We had a big group for LARPers, which was really good. And same thing with Dungeons and Dragons. We played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons back then. And it was just a good time hanging out with friends in the dorm room. So that was really my first introduction. Started playing a little bit of Magic. It got way too expensive to keep up with it. And so I kind of gave it up after about Ice Age, and still have all my cards, though. That's the funny thing.
Hey, some of those might be worth a lot.
I do have some that are worth quite a bit. One of them's getting up close to like $800 now, so
nice.
It's kind of fun. But no, I've never really, honestly, outside of the LARP group, I haven't found a group of people that as good as the Super Show community.
Mm-hmm. Dude gets a hold of me. Ohio Game. The foreman is saying if you ever want to play WOD Vampires, World of
Darkness.
Darkness. Okay. I don't know all the shorthand for all of these games. There are way too many RPGs to actually keep track of.
Now, one game that me and you can relate on is I know you like to play a bunch of Blood Bowl.
Oh god.
I'm sorry, what was that, Blood Bowl?
Yes.
I've never played Blood Bowl. I've seen it played, but I've never actually played it. I played a game called Chaos Ball, which is kind of like the anti.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad.
The,
I got them mixed up, but
the not really Blood Bowl.
Yeah. It's sort of like Blood Bowl, except it's a 4-player pitch versus a 2-player pitch, and it's a little bit simpler.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was close.
You were close.
I remember when Games Workshop stopped really giving any new stuff for Blood Bowl. When that game came out, a bunch of the community started playing that, at least locally.
Yeah.
So I got to see a lot of that, but then they started doing Blood Bowl again, and so everyone just jumped back into that because they like their orcs and they like their elves.
Yeah, I always liked I played a lot of the Archangels when it was the Chaos Ball. They sort of took some of the lead from Blood Bowl, but I'm really interested in the new one, though, the Dungeon Bowl. I think that one looks kind of interesting.
I haven't heard about that one.
Hmm.
It's a new variant on Blood Bowl.
Ah, interesting. All right, so we're getting towards the end of our show. If you have any last questions that you would like to ask Anarchy Sun, please ask them now. Otherwise, we're going to go into our last little segment that we like to do. Anarchy Sun, you may ask a question to both Dustin and myself. It can be a different question, it could be the same question. Did Dustin, you told him about this, or am I putting him on
No.
the spot again?
No, I'm on the
Ah,
spot, but that's okay.
of course.
So I do have a question. Same for both of you. You know what my 6 characters are. Which is your favorite, and that you have taken the farthest, and do you use their finishers?
Oh, so back when I originally started playing, Anarchy Sun was way, way too much fun to play. And because of that, I I went out and searched for an APA because I could not. It was sold out, obviously, because a lot of those old competitors were hard to get. I was able to get my hands on a smack with a shovel, and I took the APA to a top 4 of one of the Thursday, or it was a Thursday or Friday tornado event. And God, it was just so much fun just because the doubling of all the strike bonuses. And yeah, just smack with a shovel. Donk. Yep, nope. I roll a 22. You're dead.
Awesome.
And for me, as I think back, is I've went really far with your shovel club, the trio, and actually the shovel club actually got me there for a little bit. I kind of got out of the formats, and I ki- I broke down a lot of my decks and stuff like that, and I didn't really like trios at the time. And then when Shovel Club first came out, I remember, let's see, the first time I ever played the Shovel Club is when after I won y'all's. It was like the second Matt Stevens Memorial, I think, and I had a trio shot, and that's when the Shovel Club first came out. So y'all are like, "Hey, you've got to use the Shovel Club, but you get a shot at the trios." And that's the first time I had used them, and ever since then I've always used them in trios, which I just the fact that I love the concept and stuff like that. But you and Matt, I always thought the world of every time I would come up. So I've at least got to have one deck made that's got you and Matt. I remember Anarchy Sun when you first came out. I had played them some. I'm a very like mid defensive and aggro, so it was hard for me to really play aggro because it kept killing me because I was like, man, I need these stops because I never could row as good as I wanted to. But if I could say the most impactful for me is probably Shovel Club.
Well, I'm glad y'all liked them.
Oh yeah. I also enjoy Shovel Club, but I don't know. It just feels like the the change in stats. It feels like Polka just kind of took over the card, over the competitor for the trios.
But I love the Alpacalypse. When we came out with the Alpacalypse, it kind of balances that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and one, uh, yes, Mambata, we said trios. One thing I wanted to touch on that I didn't get to touch on earlier is that Anarchy Sun has a secondary new gimmick now, him on the motorcycle. Definitely more of a, like, it's not as aggro because it's more of a like a control because you're just getting rid of your opponent's hand. Uh, why did that come across? What happened? Why was that?
Well, the original concept was, I was originally looking into more discard or more disqualification cards, and it was several years, and not a lot of those had came out. So his gimmick really didn't have it wasn't going the direction I wanted it to. It was great for an all aggro deck, but I wasn't getting control feature of it. And so instead of doing something where I was going with more of an aggro, I wanted to do more of a I bleed, you bleed kind of thing. And I thought, well, what better way to do that is if I'm losing my hand, you're losing your hand. And so when the idea first came up, one of the things that I hated about the original Anarchy is his strike never was very good. I never could get it to work very well. And so if anybody remembers it, it was take a seat. He had a chair shot, and the concept was, if you rolled strike and it was in your discard pile, you could discard a card. Mm-hmm. Well, it was only really good as if you were playing something like a what was it called? Steel cage match. Yep. Well, I thought, what would be better is if I could get that card and kind of do make it actually good in his deck. And so the idea was, put it with the roll a strike, and you could recursion cards. You roll a strike and it bounces back to your hand, and that was sort of loading the gun. And then you would discard it to trigger the chair, in which case your opponent buried it. So you would have a kind of like load the gun and shoot the gun. Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, and then you win the turn roll because it was on his 10. Well, when the stat line got shifted, still not real sure how that happened, but it got moved. It became his 7, and it still didn't make that card worthwhile. And for me, it became better to run the Anarchy Shovel. Mm-hmm. Because you could do something similar, just not as often.
Yeah, and it was a 9 to an 11 and a 6 to an 8 versus 9 to a 10 and a 5 to a 6. It covers the 5 to a 6, but how many times are you getting to crowd meter 5 and I rolled a 5 to a 10? It doesn't matter.
Well, the idea of that card originally, it had a lot more stat boost, and it was one of those back. And the original idea was, if you rolled a 10, you could force your opponent to discard a card. So it was either with more of a stat boost, and during play test it got whittled down, and I wasn't ever really happy with where it ended up. It just didn't feel like a good card by the time we were done, and I usually used a different card in there, a different strike finish.
That straight from the Anarchy Son, ways to things to know about his character. Use the Anarchy Shovel. It's the better way of going.
I prefer it myself.
What about the smack with the trash can? Because like that at the 25 always felt weird with the old gimmick. Then again, you're also getting a 15 out of nowhere is hilarious.
Well, at the time when we made it, there was only a couple. It was before the loaded gut punch came out. So you got to remember when it happened and when it was created versus what was available. And the idea was we were going to swap out a couple cards to give him more finishers, but they're all disqualification cards. So we were using what was there. And at the time it was smack with a shovel, which was not an ideal stat line boost for him. And the same thing with the trash can was the only two that were available. Mm-hmm. Shortly thereafter, your loaded gut punch came out.
Yes, and that one's actually also really good.
That would have been a much better card to add to his deck. In fact, that's what I used to run before. Yeah, before I started running Anarchy Shovel.
Awesome. Dustin, you got anything else to say?
I pretty much at the time I'm kind of like at a standstill, but I appreciate having you on this show, man. I'm sorry at the start you couldn't hear me, but I got it fixed.
Everyone was saying that it was 100% better of a show like that.
Yeah, I bet.
Anarchy Son,
I'll be
thank you so much for coming onto the show. It was amazing to talk with you. It was amazing to hear about all your charitable deeds, how amazing your family is, and just to get a look behind the veil of your character. Because, I mean, when was the last time we got to do that?
Well, thank y'all for having me. Appreciate both of y'all, or all three of y'all that's on here, and look forward to seeing everybody out there at Origins or Gen Con.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you. I hate that I was muted while we were talking about it, but one of my favorite memories of this game is the first time I met you and got the demo in. I remember, I remember afterwards you buying a bunch of stuff, and I remember Becky coming up to you because she had been looking for you, and she's like, "Well, what did you get into this time?" But it'll always be one of my favorite memories, and you're a really stand-up guy, and I appreciate you, and you're a real person. You know, you walk like you talk. I guess best way to put it, and um, I think highly of you.
I appreciate that.
All right, Dustin, who do we have for next week?
Next week is actually, which don't worry, folks, I'll have a guest. But next week is actually going to be open. Um,
All right.
so everybody watching, if you would like to be on, um, just hit me up. Or if you know somebody, that's happened before too. Like somebody's mentioned, you know, like a newer player or
Well, the
somebody
Moscow
that
Lion wants to be booked.
okay.
There
All
you go.
right, then he's first one to talk. Just hit me up on Facebook if you don't care, and I'll go ahead. I'm not good with like character names sometimes, so if who is that, Chibi? If you don't
That's
care, to
that's
tell me.
Boombada.
Okay. I'm sorry. Then the whole boom thing got me like so confused, but I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Bombada, I'll have you on next week, oh buddy. I'm sorry about that.
All right.
Botch.
It's all good. But thank you all for watching. We'll catch you next time. And if I can, get a bye, man.
And I'll see y'all later.
Bye, man.